We're making a parkour-based platformer with a heavy focus on speedrunning and style, or at least we're trying. Avlo the Imp Wizard is a game we made within a week for the Brainless Jam in January. It was mostly well received and people liked it, so we decided to make a full version. Will we be able to create cyclical levels? Will the levels have a crazy plot twist in the end? Will we be able to pay rent with the minimum wage of us Latinos? Keep watching to find out. The game has a lot of movement options and all of them are carefully thought of to fit each other as smoothly as possible. Except that it actually wasn't as good as we wanted it to be. That's why after the jam ended, the first thing we updated was the quality of life. One of Avlo's main movements is the slide, which makes him go faster, can retain momentum, and it's mostly used for passing through small gaps. One problem we noticed with the slide is that if you mistime the input and pressed it on the air, once you landed the slide won't activate at all, making it feel awkward and frustrating when trying to get faster and better times. So we added a buffer for the input, letting you slide the exact same frame you land if you press the input as close to the ground as you can. This small change actually makes the game feel so much fluid and responsive, it's crazy. The next thing we tweaked was the trick system. In the original game, the tricks could be done once you jumped or used an ability, and gave you a small speed boost for a short time. One of the main gimmicks of the overall game is to gotta go fast, so we redesigned the trick system. The new trick system works exactly the same, with the small difference that it has different speeds. Every time you do a taunt after using a different ability, your Mach will upgrade, ranging from Mach 1 to Mach 3, Mach 3 being the fastest one. This way, the game will reward the players that takes risk and learn both the main movement of Avlo and the level layouts. Also, the rail grinding now works with momentum too, letting you reach crazy speeds. And finally, we upscaled the internal resolution of the game to let the player see more of the level and react much faster. Before speaking of the new levels themselves, I wanna say that we decided to make each new level a zone with 2 acts. Each one with its own mechanics, twist, and 3 times as long as the original levels. That means the final game will have 8 levels with 2 acts each, that being actually 16 fully playable levels. With that said, the first new level we've made for the game is the Eclipse Oasis, which will act as the second main level of the game. The Eclipse Oasis is a level that takes place in a warm and mysterious desert with lots of new mechanics to play with. Speaking of the mechanics themselves, the level has friendly worms that activate once you pass through a pole. If you get the reference, type Gusaninda Goat in the comments. These worms will help Avlo by breaking giant rocks that block his path. Next, we added a palm tree enemy that makes the other palm next to it grow taller, creating nice platforming opportunities for the player to choose. And one of the core new mechanics we added is the wall run, which makes Avlo run through specific walls of the background marked with this sign. The wall run lets Avlo stride up and down while maintaining a constant horizontal speed, which also works with momentum, meaning the faster you enter the wall run, the faster you'll go during the wall run, letting you achieve insane levels of speed. To create this mechanic, it's as simple as deactivating the main gravity of the player so they don't fall, setting the horizontal speed to a set value which will depend on the current speed that the player is entering the wall run state to keep its momentum, and letting him stride up and down. And as simple as that, you got a cool new mechanic, based off of games such as Prince of Persia and Ninja Gaiden. And as for Act 2 of the Eclipse Oasis, things get wild. As the solar eclipse rises, everything crumbles and falls apart, revealing the true nature of the oasis. For this act, we wanted to impress the player by quite literally turning things upside down. The cool and cute worms are now enemies that hurt the player. There are tornadoes that shoot Avlo around like a bullet, and even a mysterious temple that awards dangers. The first section of the level introduces a new mechanic, the Twisters. Once the player interacts with it, they will be shooted in a straight line, acting kind of like a cannon. Because of this, the level ends up being very horizontal and fast-paced. Next, the level shows that the cute worms are now bad. Actually, they are their cousins who are very rude. These worms will show a sign of alert in the position they are about to spawn in, making the sections they appear on to be more reflex-based. And reaching the end of the level, Avlo breaks right through a stained glass into an old sanctuary, which then turns into a full-on rail grinding section with worms breaking everywhere and lots of last-time decisions to choose. Eclipse Oasis Act 2 is a level based on pure adrenaline and speed, so we hope to transmit that to the players. And once Avlo styles his way out of the Eclipse Oasis, his next stop is the insides of a big dragon that eats him in the most goofy-ass way possible. This level doesn't have a final name yet, cause it's in its final stage of development, so for now we'll call it the Dragon level. For this level, we got heavily inspired by Mario and Luigi, Bowser Inside Story, and Yob from also Mario and Luigi Partners in Time, and also that episode in Adventure Time where there's a rave party inside of a giant monster. Speaking of raves, the theme of this level is not only the insides of a monolithic creature, but also a rave occurring inside of it, being lit up by all the innocent and not so innocent people that were swallowed by the dragon. Dragon Level Act 1 introduces another new core mechanic, swimming. Nobody, and I say nobody, likes water mechanics in games, cause most of the time all they do is just slow you down and make you drown, literally unplayable. That's why we took the approach of not changing in a cheap way Avlo's movement, but rather to totally change it once he's underwater. While colliding with water, Avlo enters a swim state, which lets him move on a smooth 360-degree radius, letting him swim in a more unique way. While swimming, Avlo can both dash to reposition himself or boost to go as fast as possible, break blocks, and damage enemies with it. Not gonna lie, this mechanic seems cool on videos, but it was a hell to code, and still has bugs to this day, so this one needs more time in the oven. But enough of water, let's speak of the actual level. For this level, cause it's inside of a creature, we thought of mechanics that have to do with squishy tissues, flesh and bones. That's why the first thing I'd like to introduce is cholesterol, which is a hazard that moves on a wave-like form, making the player slide to pass right through it. Next, we made the 2-hit enemies, which are enemies that the first hit doesn't kill them but rather moves them around, letting Avlo bounce twice off of an enemy, providing also more platforming opportunities. And finally, there's the bone blocks, which will move in the direction that they are pushed. That's it. And as for Dragon Level Act 2, things get crazier and spicier, cause it's Avlo's attempt to escape. This is the first fully vertical level of the game, so there's a lot to cover with this one. First, let's talk about the main mechanic of the level, the cycle. One of the biggest challenges of making a vertical level for Avlo is that most of his movements are mostly for horizontal travel, so we found a way to convert that horizontal movement into a vertical movement, that being with the cycle mechanic. First, we enabled multiple viewports in the room, which means we can have multiple cameras in the same screen, just as divided screen multiplayer games. Then, with some coding, we disabled the camera borders and duplicated the original camera, but in different positions on screen. Now, we have a projection of what's happening on the other side of the level, but you can't interact with it. To fix that, we add some code to teleport Avlo from one side of the level to the other. Now he can interact with everything on the other side, but sometimes he can't detect collisions that fast. Because of that, we replicated the collisions from one border to the other, so the player doesn't clip anymore. And it's done. With that out of the way, I can explain the rest of the mechanics. The first one we introduced is the physics spring, which will make the player bounce once they interact with it. The special thing about this new spring is that it works with physics, meaning that the bounce distance will depend on how fast the player is falling. This one was easy to make on paper, but it had some funny bugs. And the other new mechanic from this level is the vertical rails, which act more like those thingies from Mega Man X6. This mechanic makes Avlo rise at full speed once he interacts with it, creating a straightforward way to simply go up. Due to this level being probably the most original one yet, it forces the player to style their way out of the dragon while adapting to a sudden change in the way they move, so we hope y'all have fun with it. As for the music, both Eclipse Oasis songs were created using a Phrygian dominant scale. The difference between them comes in the chords, the bass, the tempo, and the drums, trying to make Act 1 song sound mystical, fresh and cool, while Act 2 song sounds chaotic, destructive and anxious. For Dragon Level Act 1, the song tries to experiment with the drums, creating more organized patterns, trying to transform it into an active and dynamic song that someone could dance to. As for the second act, we tried to implement some salsa influence, adding the pattern of a traditional montuno through the whole song but keeping a melodic relation with the first act. And as for the art, the Eclipse Oasis Act 1 was a hell to do, cause I had lots of ideas and actually didn't know how to bring them to life, which ended up in me making 4 or 5 different attempts for the background. The final attempt is this one, which is heavily inspired by Sand Oasis from Sonic and the Secret Rings. The tiles are still simple, but this time they have more variety, having decorations like some cacti and houses with fun references to make it look more grounded. For Eclipse Oasis Act 2, I got inspired by how the Twilight Realm looks in Twilight Princess, so I used one of the scrapped versions of the Act 1 background and polished it. This one also took a lot of time, cause I had to do lots of changes to the palette. As for Dragon Level Act 1, as I said earlier, the main inspiration is Bowser's inside story, so that's why the tiles look that way. Ironically, the background itself was the first attempt at it. It's the first mildly animated background of the game, and it also has color changes, cause what would a rave be without lighting? And for now, there are no graphics of the Dragon Level Act 2, but as a small spoiler, I'll just say that it will be an absolute fiesta. We got the levels and assets covered, but what about the bosses? Well, we actually have the Eclipse Oasis boss done. Just that it's a different approach from our usual bosses. Meet Irio, the Anomaly. Guys, I swear it's not a funky punky. For now, I won't tell much about his story to not spoil much, but let's just say that he will be one of the foes that Avlo will be facing every once in a while, so keep an eye on him. As for his fights, we thought that it would be cool to instead make a race, just like the Coolnet race from Kirby Superstar or the Metal Sonic race from Sonic CD. So, with that approach, we coded Irio to have the same core moves as Avlo. Irio's system works with triggers that he collides with, which makes him jump, slide, wall run, and even ride a giant worm. Also, he's very fast by nature, so it forces the player to use the trick system to their advantage and go much faster to win the race, but his actual speed depends on how far he is from the player, getting faster the further back he is. And speaking of his design, Irio is thought to be kind of like an evil Avlo, so that's why he's so similar to him, with the difference that we doubled the hell down with the Y2K aesthetic. The first pitch was a much more literal evil Avlo, being kinda like an imp rogue, basically the opposite of an imp wizard, but we prefer the idea of him being this crazy ass Y2K mascot looking thing. And that's most of the things we worked on these last months. We also have the whole story written, but we won't show much of it for now. All I can say is that you can expect both stupid and goofy ass moments and some epic and more serious ones, so stay tuned. We have a few announcements to make. The first one being that we're gonna make a Discord server in the future, so if someone knows how to be a mod, hit me up. And also, we're planning to release a demo containing the full gameplay of the Eclipse Oasis and Irio's race in a few weeks. We desperately need feedback. Please, pretty please play it! Finally, we'd like to say sorry for the lack of updates, cause we haven't worked as fast as we actually could, due to life being a certified top hater. Gio having to deal with his thesis defense to get his degree, and me with some other personal things in college, so I hope y'all can forgive us. Well, that's all for this occasion. See ya!